2 days later, they reached Port Darwin and lay in the harbor beneath the town. Here they could see nothing but the wharf, the roof of Government House, and a bit of the Darwin Hotel. Fishing boats lay at anchor, and they cruised around these, hailing and examining them through the periscope. They learned nothing, save for the inference that when the end had come, the people had died tidily. It's what animals do, John Osborne had said. Creep away into holes to die. They're probably all in bed. That's enough about that, the captain said. It's true, the scientist remarked. Okay, it's true. Now let's not talk about it anymore.
Does anyone want to give a crack of what John Osborne would have actually sounded like saying that?
It's what animal. I don't know. I'm not gonna do it. I can't. It'll be too racist. I can't do it.
You get banned by the government of Australia around that year.
Australia was, according to our Spotify Wrapped, what, our fourth biggest listening country? We cannot.
Oh no, not after today.
No, fifth biggest.
No, it was fourth.
Really?
It just slipped to fifth.
It just flipped. Holy shit!
Oh.
6th, 7th, 8th. I didn't know it worked like this.
They heard about my Australian accent, so they were getting ready to.
193rd.
Hell yeah, brother.
Listening to Socialist Shelf Radio.
Welcome back to the Socialist Shelf, Workers Lit. We're adding names.
Socialist Shelf is the sub imprint of Workers Lit. People have to understand
Socialist
this.
Shelf.
Not, or maybe we'll just stop saying Socialist Shelf. I'm not sure. Whatever comes naturally, we'll see.
Socialist Shelf is a sub. Sorry.
Definitely, yes.
Yes, we are back. And speaking of submarines, that's what we're about today. Today we've got On the Beach by Nevil Shute is his name. He's an Australian. Right. This is an early.
It's Nevil Shute. Nevil Shute.
Got you. I dropped the V. Sorry. Radiation sickness is getting to me. This is a post-apocalypse novel, or, mid-apocalypse novel, I guess. It's from 1957. It's about nuclear war, and it's an early example of the genre, is it not?
It sure is. And we do have a guest with us today to discuss Hideo Kojima's On the Beach. It's Brian from the Worst of All Possible Worlds. Welcome back to the pod, Brian. It's been like a year and a couple months, I think.
Oh God, yeah, it's been so long. This has been a very weird calendar year for Brian. Not normalizing anytime soon, but we were talking about doing something again. You messaged me and I was like, "Oh, I need to message someone over at the shelf because I believe in synergy. I believe in brand alignment, and because we're going to have you on to talk about Death Stranding 2 with us.
Yeah, Nevil Shute's Death Stranding 2. That's right.
Which, of course, has the subtitle On the Beach, and not for no reason. I was like, well, what if we talk about On the Beach? Because I knew this story basically through my dad, because he had read it as a kid. And I guess it left an impression on him. There's a movie. I have not seen the movie. I was going to try to see it before I did this episode, and then I was still racing to finish the book today. So I haven't seen the movie of it. But it's like I knew that it was like this really important Australian novel. I don't know if it's up there with like Thornbirds and Picnic at Hanging Rock, but it's certainly one that like I've seen it as like a Jeopardy question and things like that. It's like it's a well-known bit of science fiction from a long time ago.
Have any of y'all seen the movie, or honestly, have any of y'all read the book before?
No, I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah, this was my first experience with it in any incarnation. I'll get around to the movie at some point, I'm sure.
The movie's casting is crazy. You've got Gregory
right?
Peck as Dwight, Ava Gardner as Moira, Anthony
Oh my
Perkins
god.
as Peter,
Yeah,
Donna
it's
Aronson as
stacked.
Mary, and Fred Astaire as Julian. And fucking Nevil Shute hated it. He said it was bad.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, because it's like there's no Australians in there, first of all, and like I know that there's like an Australian mini series that was done in like the late '90s.
Yeah.
And there's an audio book that is read by Sam Neill if you want the true Australian experience of reading this.
I have listened to the audio. I think there might be an abridged version on YouTube, maybe
Yeah.
from an audio drama. And no shade to the narrator. I was listening to this as I was driving down to Savannah this past week, and I nearly drove off the road. It is a much better book to read than to listen to, I think. There's a lot of banality that benefits from the creeping dread that comes from having to turn the page.
Yeah, it's dry. It is a dry book, and I can understand how an audiobook of it could just be even drier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a very strange sort of, because like we've back to back we've read books that are kind of about dread. Like, because last week we did The Secret History, and that is a huge book, but it is a page turner. Like, that book is
Yeah.
like extremely readable, and this book I'm just like, okay, okay, buddy. I was gonna say, like, I don't think it's settled with me enough, because I just, full disclosure, I literally just finished reading it. I had like 3 deadlines this week. I was working like 10-hour days over Thanksgiving, because when you
Christ.
work entirely with European studios, they don't respect your Yank holidays. So
Didn't have
I
pilgrims there.
didn't have much time, so I was reading right up to the line, and I think this is a book that needs to settle a little bit. So you guys are gonna get my unsettled, half-baked takes.
That's what the people are here for. I wrote in my notes, this is a book about nuclear war, about impending death, daring submarine trips, secret codes across the world, death-defying races, a society adapting to the collapse of oil, a romance between an alcoholic socialite and the recently widowed Supreme Commander of the U.S. Navy. You'd think it would be exciting, and you'd be so wrong. But then you'd say, oh, so you didn't like it. And I'd say, I didn't say that, because I did like it. It's just not exciting.
Yeah.
And I think actually Nevil Shute would actually be down with that. I've got a fun bio of this guy, who was not born in Australia, but Australia certainly adopted him as their own. So his name is actually Nevil Shute Norway. He went by Nevil Shute because he didn't want his, because that's his middle name is Shute, and he didn't
Okay.
want it to interfere with his professional career. So
Didn't want to
okay.
be associated with Norway.
Yeah.
Nor
Well, I'm
should we.
thinking like Neville Norway is a great author's name,
Mhm.
but I do understand if it's for privacy reasons. I'm like, he's throwing away gold right there.
Oh yeah. He was born in London in 1899, the son of Arthur Hamilton Norway, a British bureaucrat and the head of the post office in Ireland who fought on the wrong side of the Easter Rising. So not cool
Oof.
there. So we don't like that so much. Arthur Norway and Arthur's mother, Georgina Norway, were both novelists. We don't have any of Arthur Norway's novels, but Georgina Norway did write a book called The Loss of John Humble that some people still say is pretty good. I've never read it. I know nothing about it. She was one of those authors that published under G Norway, and people thought her name was George because she wanted to be published. I got this quote from Neville, who said, I don't think there is a great deal in the theory that writing ability is dictated by heredity, hereditary, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think there is a great deal in environment. So he gave that credit to his grandmother. But he was also just an Oxford man from the first. He went to Dragon Preparatory, like he was just going to the
Dragon?
the grade school that's associated with Oxford was called Dragon Prep at the time.
Okay.
And
oh
then
my god,
went
that's
to-
so.
That's very
What is up with England?
That's
They're-
so- do they have like a rival school that's St. George's?
That'd be sick.
That just constantly kicks their ass?
And he would get a degree in engineering science. He had a brief
Okay.
break in there for World War One. He had a stammer, so they didn't let him become an officer.
Did he fight on the
Um,
wrong side of World War One?
He was on the British side. There was no right side of World War One, I would say.
Very true.
Except the people who stopped it from happening or just put it to an end.
The Serbians were on the right side.
There you go. Yeah. Here's what I'll say. Very interesting detail from World War One. He didn't see action, but he did get put on a military funeral party for people who died of the flu in 1918. So he was just doing funeral after funeral after funeral, going through the motions of salute or whatever, because he didn't have to talk, and no one wanted to hear his voice because he had a horrible stammer. So
that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense that he wrote this book.
Yeah, that exposure to just death after death after death of not being in the war, but seeing as much or more death than somebody would on the front, and just sort of ritualizing it, and then being sent back to college to finish his degree, definitely had an impact on the man, as it would on anyone. He got into engineering. That's when he starts going by Nevil Shute for his writing, because it fucked with his job. And he was writing a bunch of books. His first book was Marzan, which is just like a 1920s exciting. Ooh, there's a guy who's a pilot, but then he crashes, and then he meets an escaped convict, and then they get framed by their Italian half brother. It's like a whole thing. That's literally the plot.
That sounds not as interesting as what I thought it was, which was Tarzan on Mars.
No, I fear not. They get saved.
The Edgar Rice Burroughs universe just like merges with itself.
I hope it's as dull as this book. I hope it's like very boring.
I skimmed it and I found a part where there's a guy named Baron Rodrigo Matani. I have no idea which side he's on.
Yeah, if it's anything like this book, it's just a lot of descriptions on like how the planes operate, how they need to get repaired, regular maintenance.
Well, in 1926, from then on out, for the next 30 years, he would publish on average a book every 2 years for the next 3 decades.
Wow.
24 overall in his life published while working full-time as an engineer. He worked on airships, mostly like blimps, dirigibles. But then there was that bad 1930 airship crash, not the Hindenburg, the one in Canada, that the Britons stopped like investing so much in airships, like on a government perspective. To be fair, he had no part in it, but he did write an essay about why he thought it happened. It gets cited sometimes by libertarians for why government shouldn't do investment in air travel.
Did he write "If I Did It"? He wrote "If I Did It." The blimp crash.
His essay was just like, "Hey, we are just like copying everything the Germans are doing without like studying what they're actually doing. We're just trying to replicate it, and maybe we should try to build our own thing." Was kind of what the essay is.
This is the first I've ever heard of Canadian Hindenburg.
Yeah, apparently.
It's like worse than ours, and we're like, oh, we don't care. It didn't happen over here.
Well, we had one too in 1919. The Wingfoot, I think it was called the Wingfoot Express, that crashed into this bank in Chicago.
I'm pretty sure every blimp has crashed. I don't think any blimp has safely made
the
it
Goodyear
to its
blimp.
destination.
The Goodyear blimp.
I was just about to ask,
strong.
when was the last time you saw the Goodyear blimp?
It crashed.
I'm beginning to think that this is not a viable form of transit across the ocean. I'm going to cancel my tickets.
Well, he did find a viable form because he worked on the Airspeed courier ship, founding Airspeed Ltd., and he did such a good job. He was inducted into the Royal Aeronautics Society.
That makes sense because this is a Royal Aeronautics Society-ass book.
It really is. So World War II...
It's such a dad book.
Oh my God,
yes,
it is.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Except not my dad. My dad would be like, this is boring. Where are the aliens?
A lot of guys hanging around in smoking lounges.
We're about to hit peak dad, though, because at the onset of World War II, he gets pulled into the Navy Reserve, and they're like, hey, you're educated. You're a lieutenant commander now. And he wrote in his journal, I'm afraid they'll make me do something, which is great.
Oh, that's so relatable.
Fortunately for him, that something was weapons development. He led the project that created the RP-3, known as the Rocket Spear, that destroyed a fuck ton of U-boats. This dude was like developed the RP-3. If you know your World War II shit, that was fucking up U-boats left and right. Like that is peak dad, I think, for this. Like,
okay.
If there are any dads listening right now, they're probably popping off because they're like, RP-3, let's fucking go.
So he
Inventor of the Kraut Killer 5000.
he's like good Werner von Braun. Werner von Based. I don't know.
Well, after
Werner von Based. That's good.
in 1948, he flew to Australia and back in his personal plane for fun, and he decided, I want to live there. The reason he said he wanted to live there, though, is he says England has become oppressively high in taxes, and Australia had a lower income tax.
Oh man, this guy, like, I had this thought a lot when I was reading this book, and I was like, I like this book. This just seems like it was probably written by the most annoying guy to ever live.
Oh yeah, not someone you'd really want to like have a conversation with, probably.
Yeah.
He is literally known forever as an Australian literary figure because he wanted to pay lower income taxes. So yeah, he moves to Australia. He never applies for citizenship there. He just lives there.
Huh.
He spends the last few years of his life car racing, notable, and writing. And in 1960, he has a stroke and dies. This book was 1957, so it was his third to last book.
Wow.
3 years before his death. It was originally published in 4 parts in the periodical Sunday Graphic under the name The Last Days on Earth.
Okay.
And some of his last commentary about it is saying the movie was bad because Moira and Dwight have too much romantic involvement in the movie, and he doesn't like that Dwight is cheating on his dead wife.
I don't think that's how that works, but yeah, we can talk about that. I think that the number one thing that bothered me about this book is just how dated it feels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Real dusty
and I
feeling.
feel like it was not accessible. Like, I understand what it was doing, and I think it was very unique, actually. I don't know if I've ever read anything quite like it, but just because of how, like, of how old it is. And it feels old in a way where, like, for instance, The Catcher in the Rye does not feel old to me. It feels very modern. But this feels like something an upper class person would write, and that always feels old fashioned. Like, we talked about how The Secret History, it could have taken place anywhere between 1960 and 1990 because it feels so out of time, because the people in it are like rich pricks, or somebody who wants to be a rich prick. So I felt like I couldn't really access this book.
Yeah, I couldn't help, of course, thinking of When the Wind Blows, which we did a while back. And the difference fundamentally, I think, between that one and this one is that there's an optimism in this one that I don't think is entirely warranted for the occasion. Shot through this whole thing is, I mean, there's not rioting, there's not fundamental human meanness really that we're aware of. You know, there's much more of a peaceful winding down of society as it becomes clear that everything is about to end, which, okay, like, I get people just wanting to spend their last days partying and with their loved ones and whatnot. I think that's a less cynical view of the world, certainly, or maybe it's cynical in a different way, because I don't know that I want to be in the business of writing a book that is like, this is the correct way for everybody to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crescent Kearney, he's written significantly about like how to survive a nuclear blast. Wrote a really like scathing review of this book, saying like, "Hey, this is a book that's like very much like here's how to properly die and like settle your affairs." And he's like, "No, actually, like there's a lot we can do if there's a nuclear blast." Now he's being a little annoying. It's like, yeah, well, that's not what the point of the book is.
Sure.
But there is an element of the like this is in its way like there is a nobility in dying quietly in like a way that you maybe can survive. I'll also note it's funny if you read reviews from the time, all the mainstream reviews are like, this is so imaginative, this is amazing, this is blowing my mind. All the reviews from like sci-fi journals are like, this shit reads like it came out 30 years ago. We've been writing stuff like this forever. You know, like sci-fi journalists were like, yeah, we've been writing into the world novels for a hot minute. Like this isn't like, but you know, those hadn't reached mainstream in a certain way that this one did.
Yeah, so this crossed over in some way that other science fiction novels didn't. And I can imagine, I mean, it's a really heavy book already, but I can imagine like picking this up in like 1959 and reading it for the first time when it's talking about actual speculative technology like the cobalt bombs, talking about a real submarine, the Scorpion, and playing directly into the biggest anxiety of the day, and how that could just punch you in the gut.
Mm-hmm.
It also kind of made me think of like what my wife said, and my wife is Chilean, like she grew up in Chile. And we've been watching the Fallout show because like I've seen it and I wanted her to see it because I knew she'd like it. And in the very beginning, she says, "Oh my God, Americans are so obsessed with fantasizing about stuff that they do to other people happening to them."
Yeah.
And it felt very, and I mean, like, obviously this was not written by an American, but it did feel like a little bit like, oof, the Western world sure did this. What if it happened to us? Kind of thing. Like, ooh, what if the Chinese did something to us? Like,
Which is also
Albanian.
literally Fallout.
yeah,
It's like, what
exactly.
if the Chinese drop the bomb? Yeah. Well, and I love that his picture of the nuclear apocalypse is just one where every country has gotten a nuke because they're so easy now to manufacture, and like 3 little things popped off. Like the first bomb in the new conflict was dropped by Albania, and
Fucking
then
Albania.
and then a bomb drops on Tel Aviv, and it never actually says who did it, but
Critical
the U.S. Yeah, like the U.S. and the U.K. decide, okay, well, we're gonna bomb Cairo now, and so then Egypt goes and bombs D.C. and London, but they do so with planes that they bought from the Russians. So then the U.S. and the U.K. are like, well, now we're gonna bomb the whole Soviet Union, and then the Soviet Union's like, we're actually just trying to get some Chinese land right now, so we're just gonna bomb them, and then the Chinese are gonna bomb us, and we'll see who comes out of that, and then it's all over.
The part where they tell, like, when they talk about this felt extremely Metal Gear to me.
Yes.
Like, it felt extremely like the part of Snake Eater where, like, Big Boss talks to the Russian commander who's like, America is a terrifying country. I was like, oh, this feels so, like... Because I know that, like, obviously Kojima was very inspired by this novel. Like, Death Stranding is... I haven't played Death Stranding 2. I've only played the first one. So
I mean, you're not going to find a ton that draws from this. I think maybe the subtitle was mostly just supposed to be like a pre-release clue as to where the game was going to be set. But there is a sort of submarine in it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also, like, there's something that has been unleashed in the atmosphere that is killing people, and everybody has to stay inside. My main question was, like, don't y'all have fallout shelters? Do you not? Like,
Well, Vault Tech was only an American corporation.
that's true.
Yeah, it doesn't get entertained. I mean, presumably because the fallout from these cobalt bombs, this sort of speculative tech that's never been developed in the real world. They said it's like after about 20 years, life can potentially thrive again. So yeah, there might be a handful of people in fallout shelters.
Yeah. I was like, why don't you guys start digging a hole now?
Yeah.
Like,
And they have a really, really good shot at survival because this is not a book that engages with the possibility of nuclear winter.
Yeah. It's really just the air it's just fallout. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, you can see also just like a lack of the technology. I'm sorry, the lack of the research into nuclear weapons and the fallout from it hasn't reached the mainstream yet. So Nevil Shute writing about this is just like, oh, radiation, but he's not so much thinking about nuclear winter or things like that because that's not entered the common parlance yet. So you can also see it dated in that way. Just
Right.
one more.
Not to like Cinema Sins ding on the beach, but I'm like, this is not how radiation sickness works.
Well,
Like,
that's how a
this
lot
isn't
of
really
people
like
responded to it, though. There were a lot of people that were like, this isn't at all how it happened. And there were people, I mean, like, you know, there were some of them are people that are coming at it from different directions. Some people saying, oh, this is nihilistic. Some people saying, here's how you can survive. Other people being like, hey, there was a couple atomic bombs dropped and like it was a little different than this. But but it is, you know, I suppose the vibe of inevitable death and living in the late 1950s and feeling like the big one is eventually going to drop, even if you're not physically there, even if you're out in the countryside, even if you've, isolated yourself, even if you have escaped the wars of Europe and moved to Australia to pay lower income tax, you are still potentially in the targets of the grand, the radiation.
Right.
Does someone want to kind of point out what the central, I mean, we've talked about the premise of this world, but the central plot of this novel, such as it exists, is?
So this book takes place in Melbourne. I don't know how to say it. In Melbourne.
Sydney
There we
too.
go. You gotta
say,
get
with my
rid of
rhotic-
those Australian listeners as fast as possible.
With my rhotic R, I'll say it. And it's about, I like the structure of it, how it kind of moves from speaker to speaker. It's like the POV is contagious.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah,
interesting.
the narrator kind of just sort of jumps into someo's head for a little bit, and then we'll jump into the
Right.
next person's head, and it's like it's kind of
Right.
jarring in places.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is like a viral event. The POV is like, you can catch it. So it's about a hypothetical future, I guess, but past for us, where there has been like a nuclear war, like Brian said. Like basically Brian just described the whole scenario of what happened. So the entire northern hemisphere is completely dead, they think, like, because everyone has died of radiation sickness. Asterisk, that's not how radiation sickness works. It's fine. Imagine everybody's dead in the northern hemisphere. And slowly the radiation is making its way down south. So everybody in Australia knows that they have about 6 months to live. And it's about a couple of, like a guy in the Australian Navy, Peter, and his wife and their baby. And then an American Navy guy who was, in his submarine when the blast went off. So he survived. And it mostly revolves around them and like the people in their life, and sort of like everybody trying to deal with this inevitable death and like what it's leading up to and how everybody sort of copes with that, and sort of like their attempt to like maybe mitigate things a little bit, but not really. Like they kind of like try, but nothing. They don't try that hard.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about this book is that we do spend a lot of time on this whole naval mission with this American sub, like doing these little exploratory things, going up north. We also hear about another submarine that's in South America at the same time, and trying to take measurements and see if maybe the fallout will dissipate more quickly than previously believed, and to see if maybe there are survivors that they're in contact with, sort of like, Noah sending the dove out over and over and over again. And every time that it's like, here's a sign that maybe something is working, that there's power in one place, that there's a message coming from one place, they already have a person right from the start saying, yeah, this is probably just nothing. Here's what it might actually be. And then everyone being like, yeah, you're probably right, but we're going to look anyway. And then, yeah, it always ends up being nothing.
Every single time. I mean, there's a refrain in this book they say all the time, which is, there's not so long to go now, which means like that's when the radiation is estimated to hit them, which is late August or early September.
They drop it quicker than I anticipated that they would.
I mean, they don't explain what it is for a few pages more, but they say it in like page 3 when he's going to buy his milk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was like,
right,
what's
you
up?
don't even like, they don't really talk about the fact that they have like a time limit for about the first quarter of the book. You just have kind of Moira, who is like a local woman who is like an alcoholic, and she's just like, it doesn't fucking matter that I'm alcoholic. Like, we're like, she doesn't say we're all going to be dead, but she is very like, the world is gone. It doesn't matter.
And I think, the one thing that I think the book could have done better is just continued to hide it for a lot longer.
Sure.
Continue to just go on this route of like, just showing people as they're living their lives, not explaining why they're all riding horses, just doing this thing bit by bit until finally that just like breaks, and then we see what the whole picture is.
Yeah, there are really 5 characters that matter here. There is Peter, who I wrote down is boring guy. He's just kind of your boring main guy who's a lieutenant commander in the Australian Navy. Mary, who I wrote, is
Lieutenant Commander.
yes.
Oh, that's
Mary, who
true.
I wrote, is a woman mom because that's kind of her
Yeah.
character. She's a woman mom. That's kind of what she does. I wish I could have. Then we have clearly Nevil Shute's favorite guy who he wants to suck off, Commander Dwight Lionel Towers, who he fucking loves, and is the American who commands the last submarine in the world. He'll become the supreme commander of the U.S. Navy by default. He's the
Also kind of a boring guy.
also kind of a boring guy.
Oh,
He's a guy
yeah.
who won't go fishing 2 weeks early for a season right before the world's end because he's like, one in a foreign country shouldn't break the law.
Yeah, like this book is truly like, what if we wrote like a cool setting and had the most boring people of all time that we followed? Moira is cool, everybody else like the most boring people
Yeah.
alive, and Moira becomes progressively more boring the more time she spends with them. Moira was cool, and then she stopped being cool.
Yeah, there are two more characters, and they're the two most interesting characters to me. Next is John Seymour, the Ferrari nerd. He's a nerd guy.
Ferrari
He's an expert-
Otacon.
Yes, he's an expert on radiation, and he owns the fastest Ferrari in the world for some reason. And he's
It was
has
like
a lot-
100 pounds or
he
something.
wants to fuck it. And then there's Moira Davidson, who literally they're like, "Hey, Dwight Towers, he's coming to stay with us. We don't want him to be sad." They're like, "Where's our sluttiest friend? We need her to come help us out." And it's Moira.
And then she gets sad instead.
Yeah, and then she gets sad instead.
Yeah, it's interesting because they even talk about like she never. It sounds like she never actually fucks the guys, but she does talk a big game, and so she's kind of like a classical escort. She's just there to spend the night, like the evening with you, and have a nice conversation with you. Because they talked about the last time that Peter invited an officer to his home, which was some Royal Air Force guy, and he just saw their baby and started crying.
I think it's really interesting that when it's from Peter's perspective, he refers to the baby as it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, on the one hand, this guy seems like kind of an asshole. And second, it's just like he is not getting attached to this baby.
Yeah.
Because he knows they're all going to die in like 6 months.
Yeah, we only know the baby's name is Jennifer because the mom says it a few times. But like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's the only
You
one.
He
wouldn't
just
know that from
refers to
Peter.
it as the baby and
Mhm.
and it with it pronouns in his
no,
narration.
this book was actually just super progressive. It had an its pronoun character way before.
That baby goes by its pronouns. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of an interest. I think it's an interesting book. I think it's kind of less than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. Like the experience of it is like not that good,
Yeah,
but like I think the ideas are interesting and it's affecting. But I don't know. Like I can't really put my finger on it on like the thing that I didn't like about it. And it is kind of, I think, what I said earlier, that I think that like it just feels so dated. And all of the, like you were saying, Lenore, like this sort of idea that like everybody would kind of, this sort of like kind of everybody would just kind of keep doing what they would normally do.
Mm-hmm.
I found strange. I was like, where are the cults? Like, where's
Yeah.
like the religion?
yeah. It's a it is a very optimistic picture of society, like you were saying before. Like it's like he's also focusing in really on like the middle class or like upper middle class Australians and like their insistence as middle class Australians of the mid 20th century, their insistence on living out their routine by all means necessary. Making things seem as normal, as boring as we're going to the shops. We're, taking care of the garden. We're having a barbecue. And there's only one mention towards the end about like labor strikes that are happening. And like, it's a little like comma, strikes, comma, war, something talking about like the newspapers. And then you realize in the very last chapters, like that's what's happened is like none of the laborers, like the street cleaners or anything, they have finally stopped working and it's all starting to fall apart, except for the trolley drivers who are all just like, I'm driving this thing until the very last minute of my life.
Right. It's extremely like stiff upper lip type stuff when like I don't think that's how it would. I mean, obviously like Fallout is something that was made in the 90s in America and it's a video game, so it has to be exciting. But like I think that the and Fallout's like it's kind of goofy and absurdist, but I think the Fallout's portrayal of how a post-apocalyptic world would be, I think, is way more accurate. Of course, Fallout is like several hundred years after the fact.
Yeah.
So that could, but I don't know. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know anything really about Australia. So maybe everybody in Australia is like really cool and chill. But in America, I feel like if this was America, like it would be crazy. Like there would be like 600 like cult leaders coming out. I don't know, like last year I read a book called American Rapture by I think like CJ Lead, I think the author is, and it was not the same scenario. It was about a pandemic that is like killing everybody, and it was actually a pandemic that made you like insanely horny. For some reason, it would like make you want to have sex with everybody around you, and then it would kill you. But like, obviously, like that's a completely different scenario, and it's a modern book. But just like the chaos that book like portrayed to me felt like way more of a accurate description of the end of the world. And I wonder if that's just like how our sense of societal cohesion has eroded in the last 50 years from when he wrote this.
What I'll say is this reminded me, I thought significantly of almost a year ago exactly, Lenore and I covered with Max Johansson Aniara, a Swedish epic poem about a spaceship that gets launched out into space, and everybody's like fine in the sense that no one's going to die, but there is no going back. You are going to live on the spaceship forever until you die. You have more or less infinite resources. Like it's going to be fine, but like, that's it. It's over. You live here until you die. And this it made me think about that. Cause in the Swedish epic poem, it starts for the first few years, people are stiff upper lipping it. And by the end, they're doing like sex cults and the scariest thing that Harry Martinson could imagine in 1956, lesbianism.
Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, the fact that like Moira and what's his fuck boring American guy like don't have sex because he like is still so loyal to his dead wife, I was like, okay, buddy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which like that's a character, certainly, somebody who is continuing to buy gifts for their kids when he sees them again, which of course he won't. Somebody who is obsessed with going through the motions with maintaining decorum and the chain of command and all these vestiges of what was, that's something that you can play with, but that's the problem. Like it contrives to distort everything around it into itself. I mean, Moira, she contrives to like, let her like swimsuit top slip off when she's, partying with them at first.
She's so cool.
She's much more of a shameless flirt early on than a little bit later. Part of it's catching feelings, but also part of it is just like, I mean, by the end of the book, I'm skipping ahead, of course, but she buys the pogo stick that Dwight's looking for his kid that he can't find anywhere. She gets it for him, and it's not a final acceptance that his folks are gone. It's just, okay, like this guy's not going to change, so I'll change for him,
Well, I'll say that part would have been sweet if it wasn't accompanied by, and I'm also going to school to study shorthand to be a secretary. That's the part that drove me insane.
Also, listener, you'll notice that we're not really describing the plot of this book, and
Yes,
I
we
think
are.
that's partly just because there isn't really much of a plot.
Yeah, I'd say yes, we
Like-
are, in the sense of like, this is the plot. You know
Like,
what I mean?
the most plotted it gets is like a middle section where they're doing the submarine stuff, and then like you're done with the submarine, and there's still like 40% left of the book.
Yeah.
There's also the car race. That's pretty fucking cool.
They have to come up with
Where
something.
like everybody dies. Yeah, that was the best part. That's the best part of the book.
Yeah, transition into talking about the submarine aspect of it, because as was mentioned before, there are there are a couple unsolved mysteries. There are a few contrarian scientists who say maybe everything's not fucked. Everyone laughs at them, but they're like, hey, we've got a little bit of nuclear fuel left. We could give that an old spin. And wait, there is a signal coming in from Seattle. And this is something that I find interesting. The signal coming in from Seattle, if I remember correctly, it only says 2 words that are coherent, because it's like slapping. It ends up just being like a branch slapping keys or something. But one of the words,
a Coke bottle.
But one of the words,
a window propped up on a Coke bottle.
That's right.
So it's like wobbly, and so it sends out more messages in the winter because it's more windy.
Yeah, but I believe the words are water and connect.
Yeah, waters with an S.
Oh, that's very Death Stranding.
Yeah,
and that was the part that I was like, oh, Death Stranding too. Yeah, right. Like connect. That's like what Kojima read, and he was like, I've got it. I'm gonna adapt this book. He goes, you know what this book needs? The most annoying small wooden man you've ever seen in your entire life. Lenore, do you have what would Dollman say in this universe?
Sam, we've given you this package we need you to get across the Pacific Ocean. It's rumored that there might be a guy in Seattle still, but we're not terribly certain.
I just wanted to hear your impression. I love your doll man.
Really good.
You guys have seen the Death Stranding banana bread tweet, right?
I don't think I have. I've seen Die Hard Man explaining homosexuals to Sam. I have not seen that.
There's this one. Beep, 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 beep. Sam, it's me, Die Hard Man. Wanted to let you know there's banana bread in the kitchen. You can take a portion of this sweet cake bread anytime. Use the knife to cut off the part of the loaf. You can take a full piece or a small piece, depending on how hungry you are.
That is how the dialogue works in this book, too. Including like all the repetition that happens in it. Sometimes people are like, when they're explaining the whole Albania led to the destruction of the whole world, like 2 pages in a row, they kind of give the same information again. And so I was like, oh, was this whole thing like written in little tiny chunks? Like, and it was written in 3 parts, but it was not written in small chunks at all. This is just like something that didn't have a whole lot of copy editing going on.
No. Yeah. Well, this was like his 23rd book, and he had like 5 bestsellers at this point. So they were just like, like let him do his thing, and it's still better than any of his other ones.
I do find it interesting that Kojima named Death Stranding 2 after this, because obviously Kojima has been extremely like nuclear, obviously for obvious reasons, he's Japanese, but like nuclear annihilation is like a huge theme in all of his stuff. Like, it's not what happened in Death Stranding, like the Death Stranding happened, but it is a metaphor for nuclear annihilation, and that's what Metal Gear is about. Like, the Metal Gear is a mobile nuclear platform. And all of those, and I'd argue that like the most serious of the Metal Gear games, 5, which has like a really different tone from all the other ones, is like about how when America dropped the bomb, we destroyed the world, and everything afterwards has kind of just been death throes. And I think that it's really interesting that this book maybe not inspired him, because obviously he didn't need to read this book to have strong feelings about America's nuclear proliferation, but just sort of how it rhymes with all the stuff that he's done, I think is interesting, because there's a lot of this book in Metal Gear 2.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it feels much less like the secret key to Death Stranding than it does to like the whole Metal Gear series. I feel like I was especially just getting flashbacks to Metal Gear Solid 1, and like which is all about like, okay, we're not afraid of it anymore. We are not in the Cold War, but all the nukes are still there. They're still, get the FMV footage of like the nuclear labs and the stockpile and everything. And this is like really playing into, I said this before, but like that fear from the time that it was written, that yeah, I can't imagine the impact that would have if I was just some dad reading this in 1958.
I think I'm just thinking of a exchange I saw almost a year ago now, before Death Stranding 2 had come out on Reddit, that someone said, "I'm so hyped for Death Stranding 2. I'm about to read this On the Beach book." And it was like a month later, he commented on the thread, "Guys, I think Death Stranding 2 is gonna suck." That was really funny. I couldn't
Well,
find
he'll be
it.
happy to know Death
It, so.
Stranding 2 is a much more optimistic game.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But the middle section, all that to say, the middle section of this book, the submarine, is mostly them just going around and like failing missions, just not failing, but just being like, okay, well, Seattle's fucked. There's one guy when they get to Seattle, I love this guy, who just gets out and he's like, I'm from here. And he just jumps in the water and swims. And he's like, I'm going to go to the corner shop. I'm going to chill. And the next day they find him and he's fishing. And he's like, watch out. I don't want to hook you.
There's so much fishing in this book. Like, this
Yeah.
is, I, like, a specific kind of guy who likes fishing. I think, to me, in my head, I'm like the most boring person alive. So, like, this is a book full of the most boring people alive.
I had a great uncle who died fishing, and that was apparently the way that he wanted to go. I don't know if he ever read this book, but like that was the whole, like, everyone just talked about, yeah, we just found him on his boat. He just didn't come back one day, and we just found him still sitting in his fucking chair, dead.
Brian, I think you talked about this on The Worst of All Possible Worlds, and you can, like, you guys can cut this, but, like, the reason that I know that is because there is a glitch in my Patreon app that whenever it closes, whenever it, like, I have to, like, restart it, it opens playing the Alan Wake 2 episode where you're talking about your extended family. It is, like, haunted. I don't know why Patreon is obsessed with you.
That
I
is
have the exact
some Southern Gothic right there.
I have the exact same thing, except when my Patreon app opens, it's it's Chapo Trap House, and it's Felix Biederman talking about I think it's just like some conservative blogger. I'm like, every single time.
It's like I follow this game designer, Stella Sacco, and she says that when she goes out just goes out at night, she leaves YouTube playing for her dog, and it always eventually starts playing H-Bomber Guy's Deus Ex video. So she always comes home to seeing her dog watching the H-Bomb Deus Ex video.
Ryan, you can decide if that's worth leaving in or not, but I think that's hilarious.
That's really funny.
I think that's good content right there. You know, one thing that they talk about when they're on their trip that I find interesting, we haven't quoted this much, so let me read a little dialogue, is when our captain man that Nevil Shute clearly likes the most, that will become the supreme commander of the U.S. Navy by default.
Yeah, Nevil Shute wants to suck and fuck this guy.
Uh-huh. But he's thinking about like the death of everything, and he reflects an opinion I think you're supposed to be, if not agree with, you're supposed to be highly sympathetic to. And he says, you know, now that I've got used to the idea, I think I'd rather have it this way. We all got to die one day, some sooner and some later. The trouble always has been you're never ready because you don't know when it's coming. Well, now we do know, and there's nothing to be done about it. I kind of like that. I kind of like the thought that I'll be fit and well up till the end of August and then home. I'd rather have it that way than go on as a sick man than when I'm 70 to when I'm 90. And that's kind of I think what you're supposed to walk away with, especially from these middle sections of them just kind of talking. Like, yeah, I guess it's actually like kind of good to know when you're going to die.
There is such a fatalism woven through this book in that way, you know, and it's not even just in direct reference to the nuclear apocalypse. Like, there's a bit early on where they're talking about the ship, you know, Commander Dwight Fuck Machine Towers and Peter, and they're just shooting the shit up at the engines, and the captain's like, well, the engines haven't given us some trouble. There's nothing much you can do with them at sea if they do. You just keep your fingers crossed. You hope they keep on spinning around. And that's their attitude to everything, right? You know, they're operating within their specific niche, and everything outside of it is very much. I mean, that's the note that the book ends on. Indeed, you know, if two countries go to war because they decided they needed to drop cobalt bombs on each other, there's not what we can do about that. You know, you have mom woman going like, yeah, news is bad. You know, like the labor strike stuff. I don't pay any attention to that because what can I do about it? It's so. It's I can see where it inspired the bits of Death Stranding that are like, okay, people have retreated into their little like prepper shelters, but it's not in service of finding a way to connect them after. You know, it's all stick no rope.
Yeah, Death Stranding is also like, check out these freaks. Like, these absolute weirdos in their prepper shelters. Like, Kojima has a real eye for freaks. So,
and it's just usually because he's casting his friends. It's like, here's Sam Lake, but we couldn't get him to stay for the voice acting, so we hired a voice actor.
So I'm just saying, I get the idea that this is Nevil Shute casting his friends in a way, right? Like guys that are in the military, guys that aren't in the military, but they're civilian contractors for the military, that then they get into racing in the last years of their lives. Boring women. That seems to be the people Nevil Shute hung out with. He had 2 boring women he knew. He had a few old men who were alcoholics who would show up for a few pages and say, I'm going to pickle my inside so I survived the Cold War.
That guy was cool, actually.
Yeah,
I like
the
that
uncle.
guy who... Yeah, the guy who was just drinking all the port. That guy can hang, actually.
Yeah, he's like part of this like social club, and he's like, well, we have so much port and only a few weeks left to live. How are we going to get through it all? I'll do it myself.
But that is part of the book of how do you get through the end of it. And what this book seems to sort of say is, you know, find something to do with your time. And if that's your labor, that's good. But the problem is, I don't think this book has enough of an idea about what labor is for, like what it's serving, right? Like,
or like how society works, right? Like there is no consideration made for the people who are still getting like the electricity or getting the radios to work, because those continue to function all the way throughout the book. And it's like, well, someone has to be doing that. Like, someone also has to be getting all this black market gasoline to people that starts showing up in the last month.
It is an odd juxtaposition with the stuff that does work and the stuff that doesn't, right? Because there's like bull drawn cars early on that are pretty intriguing. But yeah, you're right, Brian. You know, the grid works. There's stuff that continues to go on more or less the same. And it's. I don't know what to make. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of it precisely. I feel like there's not enough improvisation in the last days as stuff just runs out. But even in there is stuff as well that's like not entirely explored in the sense of how a society deals with this sort of thing, that I found intriguing. Like there's when the suicide pills are mentioned for the first time, right? And it's said that oh yeah, these are on the free list. Okay, so there's a list of stuff that does still cost. Why would it still cost, right? You know, quite apart from the one preparation for any like nuclear eventuality that the state does being mass suicide, like enabling that, like why would anybody be buying and selling anything still?
Yeah. I think that's what is my favorite part of this book, is just the illusions that people maintain to keep society going. It gets so magnified with the woman wife, but everybody is doing it. Everybody is talking about the preparations of things that they're going to do. That's like, so that next year this is going to happen. Apparently every couple is having babies. Like, they talk about how they can't find a playpen because everybody else has a new baby, so they can't pick it up from any of their friends who have older kids or anything like that. And it's like everybody is, and then you have like the cracks where like there are more drunk people on the street, but then they also kind of get over it. And then now you have these people who are racing and hoping that they get to die on the track, or everyone is going to go up fishing. And like everybody is just, on the one hand, fully acknowledging 6 months left, 6 weeks left, whatever. But then they're also doing, just like the American guy, the coolest man ever, being like, I'm gonna buy presents for my wife and my 2 kids who are in America who have been dead for a while now because everybody in that hemisphere is gone.
Yeah.
There is an annoying element to me of the way that gets to kind of be noble with like Dwight, like Lieutenant Dwight and
Yeah.
like or Commander. I'm sorry, let's say that again. It's annoying to me how it gets to be like noble with Commander Dwight, or like noble with some of them, but then when it's with Mary, it's kind of like, oh, this stupid woman. Like it
Yeah.
feels very like it feels to me very misogynistic the way it deals with Mary being upset about it
Yeah.
because like Dwight is using it as a coping mechanism, but for Mary, she's like it's displaying her as ignorant and not understanding.
Right.
that it
Mary
happened.
also is like, I don't want to euthanize my infant daughter. And that's kind of portrayed as like, wow, you're being so silly and unrealistic.
Yeah, she's like, I've
Yeah,
read the Bible, and that sure just sounds like I'm murdering my kid because I'm going to be killing my kid. What am I supposed to do about that? It feels like she fits in with the whole world of the book more in the first half, and then like once they come back from the big submarine mission, she becomes more of like a Looney Tune. Although I do love the dialogue that she has in the very last scene with the husband, where they're both kind of playing their game of back and forth and having their last moments together. There are all these chapters leading up to it that I'm like, what happened to her? Why are we taking this tone with her and with nobody else?
I also think it's interesting that Peter, like, is never real with her at all. Like, he's, like, hiding everything from her the whole time. Like, he hides the fact that he's getting better. And, I mean, he kills himself anyway with her. Because, like, the way that radiation sickness works is that you can get better, and then you'll just get worse again and die. So, Peter has a thing where he's starting to feel better, so he's eating, but he's, like, hiding it from his wife because he doesn't want her to feel bad that, like, he's going to be alone. And I'm like, this is not a person who's very emotionally regulated. But obviously, like, nobody is. Like, everybody's doing bad.
Yeah.
I guess, like, and also, like, this isn't a thing that I need. Like, I don't need to read a book about good people. Like, I love to read a book about psychos. Like, we just did The Secret History, which I loved, which is a book about, like, 6 horrible people who killed their friend.
I thought they were normal.
Yeah, I mean, they're, yeah. Actually, they seemed more normal to me than these people, but of course they're from like 30 years later, so they feel more modern to me. However, like I said, The Catcher in the Rye feels like it could take place now.
Yeah.
Because it's about like a sad freak. I just like, I couldn't figure out whether the author thought that these people were like good and cool. And I'm kind of erring on the side that he does think that this is like the way to behave. And I'm just like, this is, especially Dwight, who's like, I need to do what the military says I have to do. Like, he won't even like Moira, who's like, can I come onto the submarine with you and die with you at the end? And he's like, no, it's against regulation. So she has to go die by herself on the beach, which is like, what?
Well, I think if I had any doubts about what Nevil Shute's opinion was, me reading his response to the film made me not anymore, because he was like, no, Dwight is a good and honorable man who knew he would die soon and be reunited with his wife, and so he would never do such. And I'm like, okay, so you're not like satirizing these people with sticks up their ass or like writing a type of guy. You think that this is like good and noble and the way to be, which is interesting and gives an interesting light. But it does make me be like, these are freaks.
Yeah, this book would be, I think this would be elevated so much if he did end up having sex with her at the fishing resort, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's just, like, he's compartmentalizing it. Sure, he's going to keep thinking that his wife and his kids are alive, but he's also going to, because this is a romantic relationship, I would argue that he's already crossed that line anyway. But then obviously, like, Nevil kind of thinks, no, he's just like the best friend a woman has ever had who kisses her.
He
sometimes.
does have that one bit where he kisses her, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Sharon would be chill with this. This kiss is from us both."
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's like, me and my wife saw you across the room, and we really like your vibe. Like,
Okay, imagine they're,
Saw
in
you from
the,
across
they're
the world.
in the fishing resort, and he's like, this dick is from us both.
Yeah.
Or what if he doesn't fuck her and she gets mad at him? You know what I mean?
Right. And she like, then she could have a couple more twists and turns in her own personality and where she's going in this. Everything I think in that back half, there are a lot of parts where it feels like it's filling space, but the back half I feel like does that more. I like when they go to the race and they go fishing. I like those aspects of it. And then just allowing the last day to just sort of hit you and hit you and hit you and hit you. But we don't need the like, here's the coolest guy ever in this kind of story. We need more people like the dude who just like leaves the submarine and is like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna die now. Sorry.
Yeah. We need more people whose ambitions and whose opinions and whose desires are. I mean, we need a Jorgensen, right? The Jorgensen, the scientist who thinks, okay, well, maybe the fallout's going to go away. We can, recolonize the like northern hemisphere or whatever. We need to, there's a little bit where he gets the results of their mission and he's like, well, that can't be right. Do it again. But like, we need to see somebody who is faced with the world breaking down around them and hasn't been resigned to it and hasn't, Dwight never is resigned to it because he goes right up to the end, being our Navy guy. The one thing that we do see that is indicative of like anybody having any kind of regret it's really weird and it's really tossed off. Blink and you'll miss it. And I want to know what we think of it. General Sir Douglas Froude, the old guy who's drinking the port, right? He has a bit toward the end where he's like, yeah, I had some good times in Africa, but I never did like that apartheid.
Yeah.
That guy's cool.
He's textually he is cool. Yeah, he's textually anti-apartheid, which is a good thing to be. And that's the only thing that I see of the larger tragedy of nuclear war being that, okay, a society, a people cannot rectify this great violence done on another people, right? And I wish there had been a little bit more of that explored.
The moral arc of the universe has suddenly stopped.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, we don't get to solve this. That like, it would have been cool. They're like, what if we could have done this, or we could have landed on the moon? We could have done things that did not end up happening, or we cannot dream of them happening now. They're not possible. I do think that it's interesting the way they start talking about, actually some animals are going to outlive us because of their fur and because of their like body shape.
Rabbits, yeah,
the rabbits. They're like, damn it, the rabbits are going to outlive us all. We've been fighting for years. I'm imagining like Elmer Fudd dying and Bugs Bunny's, logging him.
Radiation.
Bugs Bunny just teabagging him while he's dying.
He's bleeding out both ends. Yeah. I like that like Moira's dad is like, oh shit, well what's gonna happen to my like cows? Because he's like, they're too stupid to feed themselves. Like, what are we gonna do? So he spends like some of his last days setting up like a contraption so his cows can eat. Like I like,
and it's probably not gonna work either.
No,
I really love when we just get the tiniest window into something.
Yeah.
Like just like the pharmacy when again, this is part of the sort of denial thing. They have the lady working at the pharmacy where there's no one else working in any of the shops anymore, but everything is still in the windows and like no one's really even bothering it. And she just has the big stack of red suicide tablets that everyone can come and take for free. And she's like, yeah, these are just really going off the shelves. Everybody wants them.
Yeah. Yeah. I did think it was kind of fucked up that John kills his mom's dog when like he could have just let that dog go and it would probably have been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one of those little moments where the mother it's actually one of the most, to me, I feel the emotion that John's mom is, gets sick before he does. So she takes the pill. She writes a letter that says, my dear son, it's quite absurd that I should spoil the last days of your life by hanging on to mine, since it is such a burden to me now. Don't bother about any funeral. Just close the door and leave me in my own bed, in my own room, with my own things all around me. I shall be quite all right. Do whatever you think best for little Ming. That's the dog. I am so very, very sorry for him, but I can do nothing. I am so very glad you won your race. My very dearest love, Mother. And that's a moment that does hit me and that does work quite well. And we know nothing about this woman essentially, except
Yeah.
that she's the type of woman to say, "Oh, don't like let the last days of your life be a bother,
Yeah.
because of me."
And then
like,
John's
take
like,
care of the
fuck
dog.
this dog.
And then yeah, and then he fucking deletes the dog. Yeah.
Yeah, he keeps telling her stuff like, "Oh yeah, we'll just let him out. He'll play with all the other dogs." And I do like the idea of just all the dogs going feral. Well, and there's like, yeah, there's kind of this weird assumption that when given the opportunity, everyone's going to take it. Like we see earlier on, the submarine is going up to like northern Australia and seeing all of these empty towns except for one dog that barks at them for a while. But like no one's on the shore, no one's on the beach. Everyone has chosen, everyone, even in Washington for some reason, everyone has chosen to die in their own bed wherever they are. And it's strange not to have any kind of variation. They do talk briefly about like refugees and stuff like that, but like for the most part, everyone gets some sort of order once the radiation level is too bad over the radio, and then they go to the pharmacy, they pick up their tablets, and then they all just go to sleep forever instead of rage against the dying of the light, you know?
Right.
Yeah, imagine if the U.S. government put out a thing that says, "Okay, everybody, time to kill yourselves." Like, come on.
Yeah, there would
Absolute
be so
chaos.
many. There would just be people killing each other in the streets. Like, I guess that social cohesion I think has broken down. Also, this is Australia, not America. But in America, in this scenario, things would just get way more bleak, I think.
Yeah, I was really hoping that our little window into that town in Washington was just going to be a little bit more interesting than it was.
Yeah.
Because even he's like, "Yeah, I saw my family. They all just died in bed." I'm like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Come
I'm
on.
surprised there weren't like more people killing each other.
Or orgies,
I guess-
or something, you know.
I guess, like I said, like this book feels dated in that, like, I feel like that he felt like constrained by what he could write. Also, I guess like writing this while the threat of nuclear war is like really ingrained in people's heads. Like, I know that we're always like, you know, I think that the threat of nuclear war has not, it's not maybe the fever pitch that it was at that time, but like, I don't know.
It's still pretty. It's still pretty big.
Trump
it feels
has
like
the fucking codes. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, Trump and Netanyahu and like are two people who have the Putin fucking like have the
Modi.
ability to Modi
Right.
like could just order a nuclear strike at any time.
So-
There's plenty of missing nuclear bombs. It could happen.
Yeah, fucking psychos are in charge of the world. But we've kind of we don't really have this sort of fear anymore. And I think it's because we kind of had the 90s to cool off.
Yeah.
And now we're afraid of other things, like terrorists or whatever.
Yeah. And the environment, you know, a bigger
Mm-hmm.
fear of this same scenario happening, but from an environmental perspective rather than a geopolitical one.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about like how we also are kind of living in a world where we do kind of see, and it's not going to probably happen in our lifetimes, but like there is sort of an end date to humanity that we're bringing on ourselves unless we like radically change our behavior. And I think as the years go on, that's going to become more and more present in everybody's minds.
Yeah. And I wonder if like some of this the stuff that's in the book is like, yeah, the Cold War is going on and everyone is afraid of global annihilation, but like no one's really doing anything about it because what can you do? And so he's transposing a thing that's already going on into a more heightened scenario, or even just like pulling out the idea of like, well, what's the point of doing anything when we know that death is going to happen? We don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but we know there's an end date, and we're always still working on something, the garden for next year and things like that. And how does all that get thrown into relief?
That's why I love the, quite apart from the action of it all, that's what I love about the race sequence toward the end, because there's bits and pieces there that are like, okay, everybody has brought different things to the table mechanically, right? Of course, Osborne lucks into his Ferrari through a bizarre chain of events that's pretty funny. But there's also a guy who like, there's people who bring like regular ass sedans and put like racing, like they put like race car engines in them. And it's like, okay, so how does that stand up to this that was never meant to be used in it?
The Australians
And,
crave to create Mad Max.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Right,
is truly.
right.
I like that they did a hoon section.
Yeah, this is OG hooning.
Yeah, this is like hooting at the end. This book should be called hooting at the end of the world.
Yeah, I believe that one of the vehicles is like a Lotus body with like an airplane engine inside of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to see more of that than okay, like you have people who are planting gardens that they will never see. You have people buying gifts for a family that are already dead. Sure, don't have that be everybody.
Yeah. Well, and I do like I feel like he also missed something with the wife being so the woman wife being so obsessed with the garden is like the garden is going to be there.
Right.
Like that's going to stick around after they're gone. There will be more daffodils growing every year.
I was almost hoping there was going to be some kind of thing like, hey, she wasn't stupid, actually.
Yeah.
You know, and we can intuit that, but I don't think that's the intention. Though I did have a thing, and I'm not just making this reference because of who we have guesting today, but I thought of Candide. I thought of Voltaire.
Yeah.
I thought of happiness and true like morality and true goodness is tending your garden.
Yeah, that is very well, but we must tend to our garden. Yeah,
exactly.
Pangloss at the very end of the book.
That did come to my mind. Whether intended or not, I think not, because I think they would have put more emphasis on it. But I think, again, as we come up with other versions of what this book could be, whether it be more Mad Max-like, whether it be more, crazy, or whether it be subdued, but like the Mary type of subdued, like kind of understanding the way things go. Not sure, but the very, very end of this book, we do have Moira exercising her constitutional right to drink and drive.
I love that.
Because at the very end, her boyfriend, who's not her boyfriend because he's married to a dead woman, the coolest guy ever, says, nope, sorry, I'm going to blow up my submarine because I don't want it to fall into enemy hands after everyone's dead. That's
weird thing.
I thought at first, I was like, is this guy supposed to be like a dipshit? But he's not. He's supposed to be the coolest guy alive.
Noble.
We have to maintain the armament gap with the mermaids.
Yeah. Like he is sort of seen, especially at the beginning, he's like seen as a square because our square Australian guy is like, oh yeah, just give me some gin on this submarine. He's like, okay, you can have some gin. I'll have my orange aid. But like,
yeah.
The other weird thing is that this submarine did in fact blow up under the water and has never been recovered, nor do we know exactly what happened to it. Only like in 1968, like not that many years after all of this, the Scorpion.
Oh, interesting.
It's got its own
Nevil Shute.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
The Australians did it, or the Albanians.
At the time of this release, this episode will already be out, but Lenore and I have already indicted ourselves for blowing up the Gerald Ford. So
that was Jen that did that.
That was Jen who drilled holes in it. That's where Lenore dropped what made me laugh. The hardest thing I've maybe ever laughed on a podcast, where you said T-girls who stare at aircraft carriers. Actively like cry laughing.
When I was writing for that game where you fuck aircraft carriers, that's actually what I was preparing for.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's what happened. But yeah, the book ends with Moira. She drives. It says she took a fresh bottle of brandy from the larder and went out to the car and started it and drove off the road to Melbourne. Near Oakley, she stopped on the deserted road in the gray light of dawn and took a swig out of the bottle and went on. And then for a minute there, she's just kind of reflecting. She looks off at Dwight and she dies on the fucking beach. I mean, she dies just sitting on a beach. The very end, it says, presently, she could see the submarine no longer. It had vanished in the mist. She looked at her little wristwatch. It showed 1 minute past 10. Her childhood religion came back to her in those last minutes. One ought to do something about that, she thought. A little alcoholically, she murmured the Lord's Prayer. I do like that line. Then she took out the red carton from her bag and opened the vial and held the tablets in her hand. Another spasm shook her and she smiled faintly. Foxed you this time, she said. She took the cork out of the bottle. It was 10 past 10. She said earnestly, Dwight, if you're on the way already, wait for me. Then she put the tablets in her mouth and swallowed them down with a mouthful of brandy sitting behind the wheel of her big car. And that's the end of the book.
I guess.
I mean, she died as she lived.
Yeah. Very drunk.
And just kind of letting this guy be like, nope, and just being like, okay.
I do also love the way that Nevil Shute imagines hot women, which is that they all wear outfits that are one color.
Yeah.
Coordinating with their nails.
So she's all red, including the nails and the lipstick, and then like another day she's all white, and then another day she's all khaki, and
It seems
on
to
this
be
last
just,
day
like,
she's all red again.
He cannot like conjure up a woman's outfit in his head because
No.
he's like always been in the military. So all the people he sees are men. So he's like, what do women wear? Khakis?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm assuming it's kind of an Australian thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so many things in here that I was just like, would this make sense to me if I was Australian?
Yeah.
Do I need to go talk to some Australians right now and figure this shit out?
The thing is, Nevil Shute didn't live in Australia that long.
Right, so
either,
that
you know?
blows it all open too. Like who knows?
Again,
Who knows
that's
why
what
he has every character saying "shan't" in this book, including the American? I'm like, that's not happening.
Nobody says, like, yeah, hit him with I always will be reading something and they'll hit me with a whilst. And I'm like, Brit! Fucking Brit wrote this.
Well, I'll say, is there anything of what we should have done differently? Because the only thing in this book that gives any, like, we could have done better is there's, like, a sort of a vague section where they're sitting there and Mary's like, oh, well, what should we have done? And he says, I mean, I guess we could have done better with the newspapers.
Newspapers, yeah.
Yeah, we could have educated people with the newspapers. I was like, you guys don't understand how bad that's gonna go. It's gonna go real bad.
Well, and then he's like, yeah, but the newspapers don't do that. They just, you know, just talk about whatever.
Hot women.
Yeah, hot women. You know, you got the page 3 titty spread, and I don't know if they had that at that point in time yet, but like, it's just like the local crimes, the salacious stuff, instead of truly educating people. And
Yeah,
now,
it seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV.
yeah, now realizing this is just like, he is a libertarian, and so that's why society in the post-apocalyptic Australia works so well, is because there's just not really a government anymore, and everyone has just decided that they're just gonna keep things going by the sheer power of human will. I think he's a more interesting type of libertarian than what we get today, and he's certainly not a Randian.
Right, there weren't even any like age of consent things in there.
These are all adults.
Nobody had a 14-year-old girlfriend.
I could definitely see a version of this book where Moira is way too young, and I am glad we are not in that book.
That is the thing, though, Aisha. Like, we don't see the worst of people, and we also don't see the best of people, right? We don't see people going completely, okay, fuck it, we're gonna throw all taboos, all morality to the wind, and just like build my own fiefdom in the dying days of humanity. And we also don't see the people who build some kind of counterforce against those people, right? It just keeps going on and on and on until it stops.
Yeah,
and I don't find that interesting.
I feel like this is kind of an issue of like older literature where like there's certain things that they feel like that they can't say, and I don't think that's a problem here so much, but like for instance, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, when they're like telling you like how bad Mr. Hyde is, they're like, he tripped an old woman in the street.
Yeah, he stomped on somebody and sort of jumped up and down on their back. Yeah,
and like even stuff that like even like I don't know, like the picture of Dorian Gray, when like Dorian Gray starts doing like, I mean, all the stuff that he didn't mention, I'm sure was gay shit, but like, is like horrible things I can't even mention. Like, okay, well, in that case,
we mentioned them plenty on our episode. Don't worry.
Huh? Oh yeah, I like the Dorian Gray episode. That one's fun.
Well, that's it. Everybody's dead now, except for the rabbits.
The dogs.
Yeah.
And like people in Patagonia that are like indigenous to there that maybe are figuring something out.
Yeah.
The Bugs Bunny Imperium rules forever.
Yeah. It's time for bunnies to rise up. This
Well,
is how Redwall happens, actually. The field mice inherit the earth.
thank God. Well,
The scientists have told me, Sam, that the Legomorphs display greater intelligence than we thought them capable of. It's really quite intriguing.
I can't wait to talk so much about Dollman with all of you.
Well,
Well, not me, right?
No, not you. I never want to discuss Dollman with you, Aisha.
All right, okay. I see how it is.
well, does anyone have any final thoughts on this book before we wrap this one up?
I'm glad I read it. I was not blown away by it, but I appreciated what it was trying to do. It felt very unique.
Mhm.
I would like to read a more modern take on it, honestly.
Yeah. I would say the movie is made by Stanley Kramer. It's a very well regarded film, and I'm probably going to watch it like right after we finish this. So I would at least recommend to people if reading a very, very dry, sexist, boring book that is nonetheless fascinating, especially to me. I really the parts that hit for me made it worth it. But like if you want to avoid this kind of weird artifact, it sounds like the movie is a worthwhile way to go, at least.
Although it has it has sex in it, which is naughty. And that's bad.
I don't even know if it has sex. It just has more romance than he would like.
Okay, all right.
Emotional
Doesn't have
bleeding.
sex.
Well, it's so
So
funny.
don't watch it.
It's so funny that character is Gregory Peck in the movie, because the whole time that I was reading The American Captain in this book, I was imagining Fred McMurray, the guy from like The Absent-Minded Professor and like The Apartment, like just like the most like Ward Cleaver ass Boy Scout kind of guy. And I think he has drawn really interesting characters. I just wish that he didn't have such a perspective on who those characters are.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone would like to make a version of this book that doesn't have the cadence of an Andy Griffith episode, please send it our way.
Yeah. Well, and Brian, you have the right of it. The story really kind of blows its load early on, with this whole nuclear apocalypse thing. I think because we discussed briefly the bit where the suicide pills come about, right? And it's the end of chapter 4 out of like 9 chapters. So it's almost halfway through the book, right? And what's going on, right? You have the plan for this recon to Dutch Harbor and like down the coast of North America to check on the radiation. You get the pure whimsy of our scientist Osborne getting the Ferrari, because that's where in the book it happens. And then you're dragged back to reality by the episode at the pharmacy, the chemist, as the Australians call it for some reason. And that's where we learn about the suicide pills. And it's like, okay, like you have. Let's not even imagine that the whole catastrophe is entirely out of the picture. Let's imagine that something big has happened, but that there is something that people are still building towards. In this moment, that's where the emotional sort of downturn should be. And for the rest of the book, it should just keep getting bleaker and bleaker and bleaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
agreed.
If you want your life to not keep getting bleaker and bleaker and bleaker, you should listen. You should rate and review our show, because a lot more people of you are listening to us than have given us 5-star reviews, and I'm coming for all of you. But secondly, you should listen to The Worst of All Possible Worlds. So according to our Spotify review results, or Wrapped results, it's the 3rd most listened to show among our listeners. So y'all are already, a lot of you, doing it. But for those of you that aren't putting it at number 1, Brian, what's your show about? What are you up to over there?
Oh, we're The Worst of All Possible Worlds. We're a pop culture chat show. We're a chat show. We talk about various artifacts of popular culture, movies, TV, video games, and plays, things like that. We focus on, and not exclusively, but we focus on America as like this crumbling, dying empire. And we look at the way that these pieces of art, when they're released, who makes them, how they intersect with those weird corners of our history. We have an ongoing series called Wit's Endless Summer, where we talk about Adventures in Odyssey, which itself is a very long-running Christian children's radio program that is also very tightly intertwined with American history from 1987 to the present, because it's produced by Focus on the Family, which is a political organization that has its hands in a lot of things and uses that show as a tool to try and guide its audience in a certain political direction. And this organization and its former founder were authors of Project 2025. A lot
And
of the shit that
listeners,
is going on today.
On this podcast, we are also trying to drive you in a certain political direction.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
A
James
good
Dobson's
one though,
talk.
not a
A good
bad
one.
Yes. I'll
Drink a
also
lot of
say,
port at the end of the world.
yes. Also, considering that it just came out, considering that the episode just came out, I just went on to Aisha's other podcast, All My
Yes,
Maidens,
yes.
to talk about Sorcerer Rogier. Lenore's been on there. Brian's been on there. Aisha is releasing some good stuff over there as well. So if you're like, I like Workers Lit, but what if it was about a video game?
What if it
You've
was
got
about
some
Elden
content
Ring
over there.
specifically?
Unless I'm
What
on.
if it was? What if it
Yeah.
was? What if it
You
was?
guys should definitely check out the Rogier episode. We created the Elden cock ring, which I think was really good.
Yeah.
Cool merch opportunity.
Yeah. If you're like, I like Workers Lit, but I wish it was just Jacob and Aisha being homophobic to Sorcerer Rogier. Then
Yeah, what if it was two gay people being homophobic for like an hour and a half? Does that sound good?
good podcast name.
Also, Brian is going to be coming on next month to do
Yeah.
an episode on Baldur's Gate for a bonus episode.
Let's go.
We're just
Lot
going
of
to talk
fun.
about the whole Raphael section for an hour and a half. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Hey, there's lots of stuff to be homophobic about with Raphael. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we're going to be really homophobic on that episode too.
Well, good shit. Lenore, do you happen to have a sign off for us today?
Keep doing what you're doing. Don't keep doing exactly what you're doing in the event of the end of the world. And, check on your American subs. We need some love.
Peace out.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you for listening to Socialist Shelf Radio.